It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor. Seneca. In a world that prides itself on technological advancements capable of carrying us to the stars and deciphering the very code of life, a paradox as old as civilization itself persists and festers: economic inequality. We live on a planet where a handful of individuals possess wealth equivalent to that of the poorer half of the global population. A statistic so staggering it borders on the absurd, a mathematical absurdity that translates into lived human tragedy. This is a world where some ponder which model of luxury yacht to choose for the summer season, while others, often in the same city separated by just a highway or a wall, wonder if they will have anything to put on the table that evening. This chasm, far from being a mere data point in a World Bank report, is an open, weeping wound on the body of humanity. It is a source of chronic political instability, a wellspring of silent, grinding suffering, a corrosive acid-dissolving social trust, and a tragic bonfire of squandered human potential. The problem, of course, is not new. It has troubled the minds of the greatest thinkers since the first cities were built and the first walls were erected to protect private property. They sought to understand not only how this discrepancy arises, but also why it matters and what it reveals about human nature and the societies we construct. Is inequality a natural and inevitable feature of the human condition, an unfortunate but necessary engine of progress and innovation, as some would argue? Or is it a social pathology, a systemic moral failure that betrays our highest ideals and must be corrected at all costs? The answer, frustratingly, is neither black nor white, but lies within a vast, complex spectrum of philosophical gray, a spectrum we have become all too comfortable ignoring. We will travel back in time to the Athenian agora to listen to the dialogues about the ideal state, a state built on justice, not just profit. We will navigate the unforgiving moral rigors of the German Enlightenment, which demanded that humanity be treated as an end, never a means. We will delve into the methodical skepticism of French rationalism to question the very foundations of our economic certainties. And finally, we will confront the brutal, world-shattering challenge of the mustachioed philosopher who proclaimed the death of God, and with it, the death of the sentimental morality that so often masks our true motives. Each of these thinkers, though belonging to radically different eras and contexts, offers a unique conceptual toolkit to dissect this quintessentially modern problem. We will attempt to answer fundamental questions that cut to the bone of our contemporary existence. What would Plato say about a CEO who earns in an hour what his factory worker makes in a year? How would Aristotle evaluate a society where the middle class, once the bedrock of stability, is continuously eroding into a new precariat? Would Kant consider a global system that allows for exploitative labor to be a fundamental violation of human dignity? How would Descartes connect the certainty of one's own existence to the crushing uncertainty of one's economic survival? And, perhaps most unsettlingly, would Nietzsche see in today's billionaires an incipient form of the Übermensch, or just another manifestation of the same contemptible herd morality he so despised? Through this philosophical journey, we are not seeking a simple solution, a universal panacea. Such a solution, in a world this complex, probably does not exist. The goal is rather to deepen our understanding, to complicate our perspective, and to illuminate the moral, psychological, and existential complexity of a world defined by its extremes. For before we can hope to change the world, we must first dare to understand it in all its uncomfortable and contradictory glory. And who better to guide us through this labyrinth than those who dedicated their entire lives to the unflinching pursuit of truth? Let's be direct. For Plato, our global society is a dysfunctional state, an oligarchy teetering on the brink of chaos, ruled not by wisdom, but by appetite. In his Republic, he warned explicitly that a state divided into the rich and the poor is not one state, but two, one of the rich, one of the poor, constantly at war with each other. The core problem, he would assert, is that we have entrusted the leadership of the city, the entire world, to the wrong people, motivated by the wrong things. Our guardians are not philosopher kings who value justice and truth above all else. They are financial kings, driven by an insatiable lust for profit. They are the masters of shadows, and they have imprisoned the rest of us in a cave of their own design. This isn't just a metaphor, it's a direct diagnosis. The modern version of Plato's cave is the global marketplace of desire. The prisoners are the global populace, chained by debt, wage dependency, and a carefully cultivated fear of missing out. The shadows on the wall are no longer mere silhouettes of objects. They are the shimmering, tantalizing, high-definition images projected by a multi-trillion-dollar advertising industry. These shadows tell us that our worth is measured by our possessions, that happiness is just one more purchase away, that the meaning of life can be found in a brand. The puppeteers, standing behind the fire, are the corporate oligarchs and their marketing high priests who profit from this mass delusion. They don't sell products, they sell manufactured desires and shadows of fulfillment. Plato would be horrified by the modern justification that this system is natural or meritocratic. For him, justice is harmony, where each part of the soul, reason, spirit, appetite, and by extension, the state, performs its proper function. An oligarchy, like ours, is a state ruled by the appetitive part of the soul, a state sick with greed. The insatiable desire for more money, more property, more status has become the organizing principle of society. Reason has not been defeated, it has been enslaved, becoming a high-priced servant, tasked only with devising more efficient ways of accumulating wealth and consuming. The system is therefore fundamentally unjust and sick. His proposed cure was radical. The ruling class should own no private property, insulating them from the corruption of personal gain. Looking at our world of corporate lobbying, tax havens, and political campaigns funded by anonymous billionaires, he wouldn't be surprised at our condition. He would simply state, with a sigh of profound disappointment, "I told you so." Aristotle, the lost golden mean, and the cancer of chrematistics Aristotle, ever the pragmatist, would put Plato's utopian blueprints aside and offer a more grounded, biological analysis of our economic illness. His message would be blunt. Your society is unstable because you have destroyed its middle class, and you have mistaken the art of money-making for the art of living well. His core distinction is between oikonomia, household management, and chrematistic, the art of acquiring wealth. Oikonomia is natural and necessary. It is the management of resources to sustain a household, a community, to achieve a good life, eudaimonia. It has a natural limit. You only need so many shoes, so much food, a roof over your head. Chrematistic, especially in its unnatural form, which is the pursuit of money for its own sake, is a cancer. This pursuit has no limit. The goal is simply to turn money into more money, ad infinitum, an activity he deemed devoid of virtue because it is detached from the real needs of human life. Our global financial system is chrematistics on steroids. High-frequency trading, speculative derivatives, corporate buybacks. These activities produce nothing of tangible value for society. Hey, don't build homes or grow food. They are a pure, abstract game of accumulation that funnels wealth upwards, disconnected from the real economy where people live and work. Aristotle would see a hedge fund manager who makes billions by shorting a currency, profiting from a nation's economic distress, as engaging in a perverse and socially corrosive activity. He would ask a simple question: does this activity help households flourish? If the answer is no, it is a danger to the state. The 2008 financial crisis would be his Exhibit A, a catastrophe caused by the boundless pursuit of chrematistic profit that devastated the oikonomia of millions of households. For Aristotle, the political backbone of a healthy state, politeia, is a large, stable middle class. The very rich are arrogant, believing themselves above the law, and are unwilling to be ruled. The very poor are degraded by hardship, prone to envy, and ripe for revolution. The middle class, possessing moderate wealth, is the most likely to live by reason. They are the social ballast that keeps the ship of state from capsizing. The past 40 years of globalization have seen this balance jettisoned in many nations. Wage stagnation, the decline of unions, and the precarity of the gig economy have hollowed out the middle, creating a society of extremes, precisely the condition Aristotle identified as the precursor to tyranny or civil strife. A student might ask him, "Master, what is the best tax policy?" Aristotle, adjusting his tunic, might reply, "One that ensures you have more citizens than you have billionaires or beggars." Kant would cut through the economic jargon and political excuses with the sharp blade of pure reason. His argument would be devastatingly simple and direct. A system defined by extreme economic inequality is not merely inefficient or unstable. It is fundamentally immoral because it systematically violates the supreme principle of morality. That principle, the categorical imperative, in its most powerful formulation states, "Act in such a way that you treat humanity, whether in your own person or in the person of any other, always at the same time as an end and never merely as a means." To treat a person as an end is to recognize their intrinsic worth, their dignity, as a rational being with their own goals and life projects. To treat them merely as a means is to use them as a tool, an instrument for your own purposes, denying their personhood. A hammer has a price. A person has dignity. Now, look at the global supply chain. The child mining cobalt for smartphone batteries, the garment worker in a collapsing factory, the Amazon warehouse employee monitored by algorithms to the point of exhaustion. They are all being treated merely as a means. Their health, their dreams, their very humanity are subordinated to the goals of corporate profit and consumer convenience. The system not only incentivizes this instrumentalization, but perfects it. It creates a vast moral distance where the consumer in New York never has to confront the human cost of their cheap t-shirt or same-day delivery, effectively laundering the moral stain of exploitation. Kant would argue that the defenders of this system cannot universalize their maxims. Could you will a universal law that states, to maximize profit, corporations should pay workers less than a living wage? No, because such a world would be self-defeating and would negate the very possibility of a moral community based on mutual respect, a kingdom of ends where every person is both author and subject of the moral law. Extreme wealth is problematic for Kant, not because of envy, but because of power. It grants some individuals the power to structure the world in a way that forces others into a position where they must allow themselves to be used as means to survive. It creates a reality where some people's ends matter and other people's ends are irrelevant. This is the ultimate affront to dignity. Kant wouldn't care about GDP figures. He would ask one question: does your economy allow every single person to be treated as an end in themselves? Our current answer is a resounding, shameful no. At first glance, Descartes, the solitary thinker obsessed with finding certainty in his own mind, seems out of place here. But his method of radical doubt offers a profound tool for uncovering the psychological violence of inequality. Descartes' foundational certainty was cogito, ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. The self is affirmed through the internal, private act of consciousness. But our economic system has created a terrifying new axiom. Consumo, ergo sum. I consume, therefore I am. Or perhaps even more bleakly, lucro, ergo sum. I earn, therefore I am. Inequality throws the modern individual into a state of profound existential doubt. If your value as a person is measured by your job title, your income, your possessions, as our culture relentlessly insists, what happens when you have little of these things? You are pushed to doubt not just your future, but your own worth in the present. The system creates a state of perpetual anxiety and comparison, a social media-fueled nightmare where your internal, thinking self, res cogitans, is constantly judged by its external material shell, res extensa. You are no longer certain of your own being. You are only as certain as your next paycheck or your number of Instagram followers. This breeds a deep alienation, not just from one's labor, but from one's very self. Furthermore, Descartes sought clear and distinct ideas as the basis of truth. He would look at the modern financial world and see a deliberate and malicious obscurity. The system is built on layers of abstraction: credit default swaps, collateralized debt obligations, algorithmic trading, that are incomprehensible to almost everyone. This is not accidental.
This complexity is a form of power, a fog of jargon designed to repel scrutiny. It is a modern deus deceptor, an evil genius that presents a distorted reality where systemic risk is hidden. Exploitation is labeled efficiency, and the casino-like nature of the market is presented as rational science. A Cartesian approach demands that we apply methodical doubt to the foundational beliefs of our economic order. Is infinite growth on a finite planet a clear and distinct idea? Is the market value of a person a true measure of their worth? Is the concept of a billionaire rational in a world with starving children? A modern Descartes might quip, "I doubt I can afford to exist, therefore I am precarious." By doubting the axioms we are told to accept without question, we begin the process of finding a more solid ground on which to build a more rational and humane world. And then, Nietzsche arrives to detonate the entire conversation. Where the others see a problem to be solved through justice, moderation, or morality, Nietzsche sees a natural and necessary struggle. The entire discourse of economic inequality, he would thunder, is a pathetic symptom of the triumph of slave morality in the modern world. His argument is a frontal assault on our most cherished values. Concepts like social justice, fairness, and equality are not for him noble truths discovered by reason. They are weapons forged by the weak, the resentful, the botched and the bungled, to hamstring the strong. It is the morality of the herd which fears the exceptional individual and seeks to level everyone down to a safe, comfortable mediocrity. The cry for redistribution is not a cry for justice. It is the cry of tarantulas, his name for the preachers of equality, who poison the strong with guilt and the weak with their insidious venom of resentment. This resentment is not simple envy. It is a creative act of spiritual revenge, where the weak cannot act against the strong, so they condemn them morally, declaring their own poverty and meekness to be virtues. For Nietzsche, life is will to power. All beings strive to expand, to overcome, to dominate. Inequality of outcomes is a simple reflection of the fact that some individuals have a greater will to power than others. To try and erase this inequality through social programs or progressive taxation is to wage war on life itself. It is an attempt to deny excellence, to punish success, and to coddle failure. He would have nothing but contempt for a society that prioritizes the well-being of the weakest over the potential for greatness of the strongest. He would see our social safety nets not as compassionate, but as cultivating a weak and dependent populace. But would he champion today's billionaires as his Übermensch? Almost certainly not. He would likely despise most of them as the epitome of the last man, the pathetic creature whose only goal is comfort, security, and petty pleasure. The hedge fund manager who accumulates billions through abstract market manipulations is not a creator of values. He is a symptom of decay, a master of a meaningless game. However, Nietzsche might have a grudging respect for the ruthless industrialist or the visionary tech founder who demolishes old worlds to create new ones, who imposes their creative will upon reality. These figures, for all their flaws, at least express a powerful, life-affirming drive. They don't ask for permission. They create the world in their image. Nietzsche's perspective is brutally uncomfortable because it forces us to confront our own motives. When we decry inequality, is it from a pure Kantian sense of dignity, or from a hidden envy of those who have more? Do we want to lift everyone up, or simply to tear the successful down? Nietzsche offers no solutions, only a diagnosis that should make us shiver. He warns that in our quest for a fair world, we risk creating a perfectly comfortable, perfectly meaningless global posture for a placid human herd. We have walked a long road, from Plato's ideal state to Nietzsche's will, to power. Each philosopher has handed us a different lens through which to view the same chasm, and the resulting image is one of staggering complexity. We have seen how inequality can be a disease of the state, a violation of universal moral law, a source of existential doubt, and a natural, if terrifying, outcome of the struggle for power. To synthesize these views is to see the problem in 4 dimensions. It is structurally unsound, morally indefensible, psychologically corrosive, and existentially challenging. What are we to do with these contradictory insights? To ignore them would be foolish. To choose only one and follow it blindly would be dogmatic. True wisdom, perhaps, lies in holding them all in tension, in recognizing the partial truth contained in each. Yes, a society needs a just structure and a robust middle class, as the Greeks taught us. Yes, any economic system must pass the moral test of human dignity, as Kant insisted. Yes, we must be aware of the psychological price we pay for our obsession with wealth, as a Cartesian reading would suggest. And yes, we must be brutally honest with ourselves and ask, alongside Nietzsche, whether fear of excellence sometimes hides behind our desire for equality. Perhaps the greatest mistake is to see economic inequality as merely a problem of money. Money is just the symbol, a marker for something far deeper. When we talk about inequality, we are really talking about inequality of opportunity, inequality of hope, inequality of being treated with dignity, inequality of having a voice, and most importantly, inequality of living a meaningful life. The current system does not just distribute financial capital unevenly. It distributes human capital unevenly, letting billions of minds languish in poverty and drudgery, while a minority has the luxury of pursuing their passions and shaping the world. It is an inefficient system for cultivating the full genius of our species. The profound conclusion that should give us pause is not a magic formula for fixing the problem, but a re-evaluation of what we consider wealth. We have built a global system that is an expert at calculating the price of everything, but has forgotten how to determine the value of almost anything. We have become, as Oscar Wilde quipped, cynics who know the price of everything and the value of nothing. We have spreadsheets for profit and loss, but no calculus for dignity and despair. Perhaps the real revolution is not political or economic, but a revolution of values. A revolution where we begin to value time more than money, community more than competition, creativity more than consumption, and wisdom more than information. Until then, we are left with a question that should haunt us, a question that echoes from the Agora through the Enlightenment and into our digital age. In the grand theater of human existence, are we content with a script where most of the actors are barely allowed on stage, while a select few play all the leading roles? Speaking of lives, the others will never have the chance to live. The answer to that question will define not only the 21st century, but the very fate of the human project.